No vegetables or anything? You just...
Nope.
Nothing, just a steak?
Yeah. People are like, well, you just eat beef for breakfast? Either no breakfast or yes, or lamb. Yeah, but I get arthritis and my skin breaks out and then I cry all the time. No fruit tastes that good. Nothing tastes as good as being healthy feels. Would you eat peanuts if you really like peanuts if you had a peanut allergy? I'm Mikhaila Peterson, and I've been on the Lion diet since December 2017. 5 years of only eating beef, lamb, bison, salt, and water.
Mikhaila Peterson was the one who inspired me to try carnivore. And originally, it was a 30-day challenge, and nearly 2 years on, I'm still doing it.
I mean, I love a steak with salt, but 3 times a day, every day, 7 days a week?
The alternative is worse. There's still some underlying crazy autoimmune problems. Anytime I add anything back in, I get arthritis.
You have no vegetables or anything? You just...
Nope.
Nothing, just a steak?
Yeah.
If she deviates, she pays for it. It's a no-brainer.
Could kill somebody with this thing. Anyway, I came across this diet out of desperation, trying to get my depression under control. I had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis since I was 2. I was diagnosed when I was 7, and then my health just went downhill. A hip and ankle replacement at 17. I had chronic fatigue. My skin was a mess. I was on like 8 medications and I couldn't function. I couldn't get out of bed.
This is why carnivores eat the way that they do. We're not doing this for fun and games. If we eat plants, we're the ones that suffer.
The medical system wasn't helping me. I went on the paleo diet when I was 23. Very limited fruit, mostly meat and greens. That got rid of all my symptoms until I came off of psychiatric medications way too quickly after being medicated from the age of 12 to 23.
The medical system won't prescribe a carnivore diet, but they will happily give you lots and lots of toxic drugs which will ignore root cause.
I didn't even know I was an antidepressant withdrawal for a number of years until my dad experienced the same thing.
People who suffer from depression don't have a drug deficiency. They have a nutrient deficiency, a brain energy deficiency.
And that's what led me to the Lion diet, to keep my autoimmune disorder in remission and to keep my psychiatric conditions in remission. I was extremely depressed. I had OCD symptoms, was diagnosed with bipolar, and I was on a lot of different medications, and I was absolutely miserable. And I'm medication free, I'm no longer an antidepressant withdrawal, and I have no arthritic symptoms, and I attribute almost all of my success to the Lion diet.
All those poisonous drugs that she was taking weren't doing a thing. She was miserable and inflamed.
I do not eat grass-fed meat very often. I don't really like how it tastes compared to not grass-fed meat. I don't eat aged meat. My stomach hurts almost 15 or 20 minutes after eating it. Histamine intolerance is when you react basically to aged meat. That's how I'm going to describe it. So I eat lamb and bison, which are generally lower in histamine and aren't aged as long. White Oak Pastures has unaged beef, and so does Billy Doe. So if you start the carnivore diet and you're having urgency issues or bloating after you eat meat, it could be because your body doesn't like aged meat.
Luckily, I don't seem to suffer with any histamine issues, which is pretty convenient considering aged beef is everywhere.
When I started the diet, I just went to beef and salt and water, and I didn't know anything about electrolytes. Around month 5, I started waking up at night because my calf was cramping. And calf cramps, they hurt a lot. And I was too worried about introducing anything because of these massive autoimmune reactions I would have to food, or to even pills or medication, just anything, that I just dealt with it. I realized that sodium, potassium, magnesium levels, especially at the beginning of the diet, are super important. I would say just add a lot of salt to your diet, and then if the cramps come, start playing around by adding in potassium and adding in magnesium. It's pretty different per person.
I only just started taking electrolytes for the first time about 8 weeks ago when I was recovering from my surgery. I wasn't eating right away and I was drinking plenty of water, so rather than flushing my electrolytes out, I was supplementing them.
Even without electrolytes, the muscle cramps and electrolyte imbalances do go away. So I can take unflavored electrolytes, and I don't take them very often anymore, but I should have taken them more at the beginning of the diet.
Which reminds me, actually, if you are interested in getting some high quality electrolytes, I will leave a non-affiliate link below. If you use code KENTCARNIVORE10, so capital letters, then 10, you'll receive 10% off of your purchase. Like I said, this is a non-affiliate link. I don't make a penny out of this. They're just high quality electrolytes, and they're from someone I trust, Richard Smith from Keto Pro, so definitely recommend those.
So I'd say the average day is either a steak around noon and another steak at around 5 p.m. or leftover ribs and crunchy things. A year ago, my average day looked like lamb sausage, and that's just lamb and salt in the morning. And then I just ate jerky for the rest of the day. So just a lamb sausage jerky diet. I love jerky. You're like, what? That's not fun. Like, yeah, but you know what's less fun? Having an autoimmune disorder and being crazy. That's way less fun. People are like, well, you just beef for breakfast? Either no breakfast or yes, or lamb. Dinner, beef or lamb. Lunch, beef or lamb. And I never cheat because nothing tastes as good as being healthy feels. And the repercussions for cheating for me are so severe and so quick that it's just not worth it. Like, would you eat peanuts if you really like peanuts if you had a peanut allergy? What if you really liked peanut butter? It's like asking that kind of questions. Like, well, what if you really like fruit? Yeah, but I get arthritis and my skin breaks out and then I cry all the time. No fruit tastes that good.
Nothing tastes as good as being healthy feels. I could not agree more with that statement, 100%. But do you know what does taste really, really good? Red meat.
Girls got to do what a girl's got to do to not have arthritis. Jordan Peterson, my dad, his average day is like strip loin steak, strip loin steak, strip loin steak. He's a lot too. He probably eats 3.5 or 4 pounds of meat a day. He's a beast.
I eat close to 2 pounds of red meat per day.
I don't really get cravings anymore. I have managed to reintroduce wild fish. I don't eat wild fish very often because I seem to just be hungry after I eat it. But it's nice to be able to go out to a restaurant and order sashimi. I still get autoimmune symptoms if I introduce fruit. I get autoimmune symptoms if I eat chicken. Pork is even worse. I cannot tolerate pork at all. I have a worse reaction to pork than I do to some fruit. Like, I'd rather be eating apples than eating pork.
I have to say, I do quite well on high quality pork. I just make sure to base my diet on ruminant meat.
It's totally dependent on the food. If I had something containing gluten, very severe. If I have something containing soy, like I was on tour with Dad earlier this year and we went out for lamb and they cooked the lamb with olive oil, but the olive oil was like 70% soybean oil. Tons of restaurants cheap out and they cut their olive oil with 70% soybean oil. It's disgusting. And they call it olive oil. You're still allowed to call it olive oil. Be careful of your olive oils. I had some of the lamb and I was like, oh, okay, this tastes a little weird because you can taste everything if all you eat is meat for 5 years. You can, like, if there's a pepper flake on my lamb, like, that's pepper. Anyway, I had a pretty bad reaction to just a couple of lollipop pieces of lamb that had soybean oil on them, but I'm almost deathly allergic to soy, so that's not that surprising.
And this is what vegans recommend that we eat for our protein source. They fail to understand and recognize that it actually just harms many of us.
I was sick for about a week. I cried the next day. I felt horrible. I had this overwhelming sense of doom and it makes me weepy and my joints hurt and my skin broke out and it lasted for about a week. I tried to reintroduce these sausages that are like fresh beef, fat, salt sausages. They were so good, but about 5 days into eating them, I started not to feel so good and I realized they were smoked. So I can't do smoked meat at all. Yeah, I don't know how to explain these things, guys. I don't know.
Smoked animal products will be higher in histamines.
It's totally possible to do this on a very low budget. It can be way cheaper than eating the standard American diet. What you want to do is you want to go to a butcher or go to your meat department and just buy the cheap cuts. Doesn't matter what they are. You could survive off of tongue if you needed to. That's dirt cheap. So you can buy fat from a butcher. Fat is really cheap. They commonly cut fat off of cuts and throw it away. So make friends with a butcher, buy fat, buy the cheap cuts. You can do heart too. You can do organs. Like heart is, it's a muscle and tongue is a muscle. So that's still muscle meat. Get a pressure cooker and an air fryer and you're set. And the pressure cooker and air fryer are an upfront expense at the beginning of the diet. They will save you so much time and they'll make your food so good. It's really worth investing into them. It can be very cheap and it makes you healthier. You should do it, especially if you're sick.
She's dead right about carnivore not having to be expensive. I mean, the higher fat your ground beef is from the butcher, the lower it is in price. And, you know, you can use things like whole eggs, tin sardines, all this stuff is cheap as chips.
And crunchy things, this is a recipe I came up with. You get pretty creative, I guess, if you've only been eating meat. You can take any cut of beef or lamb, as long as it's not ground meat, and pressure cook it until you can shred it into bits, and then pour all those shredded bits, without the water, obviously, into an air fryer. Add tallow, which is beef fat, so add some sort of fat, and then air fry it with salt, and you get shredded crunchy things that are just God's greatest gift. But I definitely recommend eating crunchy bits. Crunchy things? Crunchy things is probably a better name. Crunchy things.
Get in my belly!
I went on the diet 5 months into nursing when Scarlett was still nursing full-time. She hadn't introduced any foods. And I switched over into the diet. I got more milk. Scarlett's cradle cap went away. Obviously, I got better. That improved things. If you have postpartum depression, I know a couple of people on the diet that it's helped postpartum depression a lot. So I'd say give it a shot. No use living depressed. There's nothing worse than that. I know when you're depressed, you think, oh, how could I go on a diet? The only pleasure I have is from food. Just do the diet. Don't live depressed, especially if you've lived depressed for like a decade or that's been your life forever. That's so sad.
I started with beef, butter, bacon and eggs for a 30-day challenge. And after 3 weeks, my depression was completely gone. So it's totally worth it.
So I always had like about 8-day periods. I don't even know what a regular period would look like. I know that before I went on birth control, I had pretty bad cramping. I have absolutely no cramping now. I would attribute that to diet. My cycle's super normal and about 6 days long and absolutely no cramping. People are like, well, lions don't eat salt. Haha, are you eating raw meat like a lion? I'm not saying I'm a lion, you nerds. Just called it the lion diet. Well, if you had just removed processed foods, you'd be fine. And I did do that. I did that first because that's more obvious. I removed everything I thought I could be allergic to, nuts, eggs, dairy, all processed foods, grains, and went down to like meat and greens and fruit. I did that to begin with, and then I stopped taking antidepressants and I went off of all my medications and I got pregnant and that stopped working, okay? So then I went to meat and lettuce. I was just eating meat and lettuce and apple cider vinegar and olive oil, not olive oil cut with soybean oil, just pure olive oil. And that was giving me an autoimmune disorder. It wasn't until I dropped the literally lettuce, apple cider vinegar, olive oil, and went to the lion diet that my arthritis went away and my mood improved. So it's not from cutting processed foods, it's more than that.
It's definitely not just about eliminating processed foods. For a lot of us, it is the plants that are the culprits.
My gut was damaged, partially from having celiac disease and partially from eating gut-damaging foods. And food was escaping into my blood, like bacteria, into that food. And those antibody-antigen complexes were building up in my tissues and giving me arthritis. I think that's what was giving me autoimmunity. It's been shown paleomedicina in Hungary, putting people on an all-ruminant meat diet, stops gut permeability issues. It will seal your gut.
True.
You can heal gut damage. It's been 5 years and here I am without scurvy. It's completely saved my life. It saved my dad's life. It saved my mom's life. She thinks she would be dead without the diet. She almost died anyway. My dad would be dead 100%.
Hey, but it's just a fad diet, right?
I've seen this diet help tons of people. And so if you're thinking about doing it and you're depressed, do it for 6 weeks. It's not that long. And then decide if you want to keep doing it at the 6-week part.
Thanks for watching.